First and foremost, I want to address this. I think the thing for me, for you guys, is I've got the utmost respect for those of you that follow our football program. I really appreciate what you do. And with that said, over the last 2 days, I've gotten some, text messages, phone calls about addressing situations at other institutions, football program, what's going on at other institutions, and you need to know this. From my end, I'm never going to talk about what's going on at other schools or other universities, okay? My sole purpose in my job is to focus on, number one, our football players, number two, okay, our coaching staff, number three, our fan base, and number four, the future of our football program. And I think a lot of you guys know me. I think a lot of you guys know what I stand for. I've always said this: you're either somebody in this profession that's trying to either be somebody or trying to do something. And I think over the last 2.5 years, I've proven that my whole sole mission is to be here and to do something. And so with that said, as we go forward, again, I have the utmost respect for you and the job you have to do, but I'll only answer questions that pertain to our football program, Iowa State football, and our future. Fair enough? Okay, so with that said, really fired up for the first day of practice. I'm really excited about what our kids have done. I think we had a great summer. I'm proud of the work ethic, the time, the commitment that our kids have put into their craft. I think you see a team that, at least this morning, you only had half the team out there and the other half will come out this afternoon. I think you see a team that's growing. There's a lot of competition right now in our program, which is a really positive thing. And again, to sit here today and be able to speculate on any of our guys and where they're at right now is probably really unfair. But I can tell you that we had a great summer, and I really look forward to getting into fall camp. With that said, any questions you might have for me?
We did see Julian Good-Jones on the left side today.
Yeah, Julian's one of those guys, Randy, I think you're going to see get moved around a lot. And that's one of the great things for him, that he's got so much position flexibility. And I would venture to guess in the first 8 days you're going to see him probably at almost every offensive line position. And I think that's a nice thing about having split practices is you get guys in different combinations, a lot of different reps, and we're kind of doing that to really for us to see what's the best fit, what are the best five, where do they fit, what's it look like. But Julian's a key piece of it because he gives us a lot of position flexibility.
I know Kemp picked up on things quickly last year, but how much more is he able to do with the offense now that he's had so many number one reps through the season and then spring ball?
Well, I think even today what you saw from Kyle is a confident football player. One of the things that was really enjoyable to watch him this summer work is anytime you get to play Big 12 football games and you certainly are able to have success and failures, you're able to learn from and grow. And a smart guy like Kyle has the ability to take his craft and continue to perfect it. And there's nothing like game reps. Whether it's good or bad, there's nothing like getting game reps and game experience. And I think what he did is he took those game reps, he poured it into this summer and said, how do I correct this? How do I continue to move myself forward? And even today, I think, really fun to watch. You see a really confident guy, a guy that's confident on his decisions, a guy that's confident in his strength now as a football player, and I think it only helps him grow as a football player for sure.
Was that essentially the 1 and 3s out there today?
Yeah, it's a little bit of mix of everything,
yeah.
and a lot more of the young guys will come out this afternoon, but the 1s and 2s are still kind of intermixed because I think we're still trying to find combinations and see what looks like and what feels like. So it's unfair to say that right now, but I think what we're trying to look for is combinations, at least early in fall camp, to say what's the right fit for us.
The guys you have at tight end, what do they allow you to do? The guys you've been able to bring into the program and the way they've been able to kind of change your bodies for the whole offense, I guess. How does it change what you guys can do?
I think for me, it's really interesting in terms of you've got such a unique skill set. Chase Allen looks like a total different football player today than honestly even last year. He 235 pounds at the start of fall camp last year. He's almost 252 pounds right now. I told Chase, you got muscles. Like, you actually look like a guy that's got muscles now. That's cool for us. Dylan Saner's a big, strong, physical guy. And, Charlie Kolar, even a young guy, another year in our program, is well over 250 pounds. To me, having tight ends that have a skill set they can flex out and play, yet they're also big enough and strong enough that they can be attached or be Fs or Ys for us. I think that's really big. It gives us flexibility. It gives us different ways to attack defenses, both from a spread alignment or tight alignment. And those are things we haven't had the ability to do, quite honestly, for the last 2 years. And, you know, I think if you look at our history, that's kind of been our niche. We've been able to have some of those guys. And, you know, again, it's just like the O-line. You can't just make those guys be 250 pounds, 260 pounds. They have to develop and grow. And we certainly feel like we've got some guys that are getting ready to really take a good step forward for us.
I hate to be the guy that asks about kickers. What's going on there?
Yeah.
I gotta stand in for Tommy. What's going on at kicker? Like, what's that battle like?
I think it's a big battle. You know, I think it's one of those battles for us where you've got, you know, Chris Francis, who has really, I think if you really study it, comes back as one of the best, really the best kickoff guys in our conference. His success rate of touchback ratio is as good as anybody in the Big 12. And with that, you know he's got a really powerful leg. What we challenge Chris is, if you want to be the place kicker on top of that, then it's consistency to be able to win that job. He had a really good spring for us, and he should. He's a veteran and a senior going into it. Braden Arverson, on the other hand, really talented young guy, and he's a freshman. And so what was really positive for him is to get that spring ball and get some really good days and really tough days and work through it. And now it'll be the same thing. I think that competition will be hot and heavy every day. Two guys that we really feel like have a lot of upside and a lot of potential, but two guys that have to prove it. And you know, I think that's one area where there's nobody that's a proven commodity. Until they get out there, until they do, and they prove they can consistently do it, it's really hard to name a starter at that spot right now.
And is punter, I mean, it's done?
Punter is probably a little bit different because you're talking about a guy that did it in at least a collegiate setting. You know, Corey's a little bit older, a little bit wider. He had a really good spring. You know, I think systematically for us, he gives us a lot of position flexibility. We feel like he's a guy that's a really high-end talent for us. And not to say anything negative about those kickers, I think that's just a different ball game where you have it's a lot more team aspect of it when you got a punt team and 10 other guys that can help you be successful. So, you know, I think right now I'd say Corey's our number one guy, and we really feel confident about Corey.
What's it like to live in a hotel for 2 weeks, and what does that do for the team to be in the same setting for 2 weeks?
You know, I love it because to me this is the one time a year where these guys have no other distractions. I think, you know, even in the summer you've got summer school and you've got a lot of other things going on, lifting, and some of the guys taking jobs and internships. For 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks before the start of school, it's the one time a year where nothing other than the sport of football and perfecting their craft and hammering home key habits, it kind of allows everything to grow with it. And part of it is these guys staying in a hotel. Part of it is, you know, I love pairing roommates. My favorite part of the fall camp is who rooms with who. And it's very unique in how we do it. But to me, I think it's just guys getting to know different guys, and that bond and that culture of football team going from here and really getting here by the time this thing starts. And look, I'm fortunate for us. We got really good leadership right now. I think I took over a team right now that's here, and I give those guys a lot of credit, but I think it only firms that bond. And, you know, some free time, some opportunity away from football too is really good for these guys, and be able to spend that together, I think it's awesome.
What are you telling your kick returners as far as in light of the new rule?
Yeah, you know, I think so much of it is game to game. I don't think it'll change much. I really don't. I think, I'll be honest with you, in college football, I think it's going to have a lot less of effect than it is going to be in the pro game. And the reality of that is just because I think it changes week to week and who you're playing, what your opponent is, and, you know, what's your mindset. One thing we have is we feel like we do have some really capable kick returners. And so I don't think that'll refrain us from being positive in terms of a kick return unit, though we're also not going to be naive getting the ball on the 25-yard line. And if you average 25 yards or more in the kick return game last year, you would have been in the top 15 in the country in kick return yards. So that the ball on the 25 is certainly a situation where you have to weigh the risk and reward of returning a kick each week. But I don't know if it'll have as profound effect as everybody thinks it will, at least on the college game right now.
What's the most unique roommate situation that you guys set up?
Oh boy, I got a lot of them. You know, I wish I could look at the deal. You know, whoever's got a room with either of the Bailey twins is usually a bad draw. You know, so but those two are growing as good leaders in our program. So I think whoever's in with those two is probably a tough draw right now.
How are you using this fall period to evaluate play calling and offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I don't think it really changes for us. I think we had the spring to work through some of that, and again, this fall having the opportunity in some of these scrimmages, we will. But really our operation has kind of stayed pretty much on track. And the neat thing is I think with some of those guys to be able to have some more attention on certain areas, like Jeff with the O-line, without having to worry about calling plays. I think it's been really fun to watch his growth and that line's growth around him. Certainly Joel taking over at the quarterback spot, I think, has been really good for him as well. But, those guys, and we talked about them, Coach Gordon, Coach Gasser taking great leadership roles in what we got going on the offensive side, and certainly me being right in the middle of it as well.
Matt, I know you said you don't want to publicly comment on other schools or situations, but do you address anything like that with your guys? Because I'm sure they get the same text messages and questions that you were.
Yeah, I said this a year ago. We got a really open door policy with our kids. I constantly talk about noise and things outside of because those are things we can't control. And I think to be naive not to address situations that come up in every walk of life with our football team. And yeah, I think that's something that I've always done and we always will continue to do.
What about with recruits?
Yeah, same thing. I think our recruits I'm pretty open and honest with them, and any questions that they have for me,
Do they ask? And I'm not using the present situation. Last offseason there were a ton of interest too. So
I think
do they ask?
For the last 8 years since I've been at the University of Toledo, that's the number one question every parent asks. So, it is what it is. It's one of those situations that are uncontrollable, but I think once you know who I am and you develop a relationship, they got a really good feel for what I'm about.
Does it make you mad or is it a compliment?
No, again, it's life. You deal with it.
Okay.
Where does summer fit in for these guys in terms of that win in the dark mentality you want to form? And how is it maybe built over time here with this group?
Well, I think the one thing for this group, it started literally when we entered that locker room after the bowl game. And our conversations in that locker room after the bowl game, were really direct, really honest, and knowing that the challenge moving forward with this football program, that noise was only going to continue to try to creep in, because when you haven't sustained success for a long period of time in a football program, that the ego of all the noise outside of it can start to creep in, whether it's coaches or players. And I think the one thing I'm really proud of this group, from the day we came back, and we came back in January, they have gone to work. And our mindset has been, there was a lot we left out on the table. There's so much area for us to continue to grow. How do we make up those margins that we still need to fill? And to be honest with you, that summer is such a nice segue from spring, where you're so hands-on, to now as the coaches you're a little bit more hands-off. And the neat thing for us, I think, is you look at our leadership group at each position, from specialist to every position group. Our best players are our best leaders at those position groups, and when that happens, then real things can really start to mature and start to come to fruition. And I think that was, you talk about what was huge about getting Kyle Kemp back and having guys like Ray Lima. You guys see the player. I don't see that. I see the leader. I see the dark, and I see the hours put in of getting the receivers there, or getting the D-line there, or making sure guys are where they need to be when they're supposed to be there. That to me is way more powerful than playmaking ability. And yes, you want all those things. I'm not naive to say that, but it's those other characteristics that's huge.
Kyle was on the sidelines, or close to the sidelines this morning. Kyle had a palm of his hand out and going like this with Butler and Eaton and a couple other guys. They were huddled around him. Would he have done that last year?
Yeah, I don't know. Kyle was really enriched in certainly the offense a year ago, which is why I think he was able to play so well when his opportunity came to fruition. But I think the thing what's great about him is he's really taken even more of the reins of this offense. And everybody worries about who's calling plays. Eventually, you'd like to get it to where the quarterback's calling the majority of the plays. And a guy like Kyle, certainly gives you the ability to do that, and certainly gives you the ability to put yourself in the best situation to be successful. And that's one huge advantage about having a guy like Kyle back.
So you agree?